All right, Shabbat Shalom. Again, everyone, we are still on our journey through Genesis, Bereshit, and we find ourselves in Genesis 31. Last week, we started looking at this arrangement that Jacob had with Laban, and we were intrigued. Matter of fact, we didn't even want to stop. If you remember, we wanted to keep on going, but for brevity of time, we had to bring last week's study to a close. So this week we're in chapter 31. We have 55 verses. Wow. All right, so let's do 10 verses at a time. That way we can take it in larger chunks and just try to sift through and see what Yah's telling us. Who wants to go first? First 10 verses, chapter 31. JP, oh, I see 3 hands. Who was first?
I wasn't looking, so I guess you're the judge, brother. Who you picking first?
JP.
JP.
Okay, the crowd selects JP.
All right, JP.
And then Marshall can go next.
Man, Nate and Marshall, they was fast too, man. They was fast.
Yeah, quick on the draw, them fingers.
Okay. Genesis 31, just 10 verses, right? You said?
Yes, sir.
And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And Yahuah said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before, but the Elohim of my father hath been with me. And you know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring straight shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring straight. Thus Elohim hath taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. And it came to pass at that time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring straight, speckled and gristled. And that's it. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't have much to say right now, but
No.
yeah, I'm just that was kind of tough for me right there.
Come on, brother. Dissect it.
I'll wait around. Keep looking.
All right, so there's a lot going on here then. So what we're seeing is there's this imputation now of these 3 sons, right? Or these sons of Laban. So before it seemed as though the 2 daughters were the heirs, right? So now you have these sons who come in and they're concerned about their welfare. So they're accusing Jacob of being a thief, right? So you have Yahuah repeat his promises that he gave Jacob, and he also promises Jacob and tells him to return to his homeland. So you have a lot going on here, because now Laban is watching the animals come out, and he's watching the colors of them, and he's changing the deal every time a new one's born. So you have that same deception that we talked about that Jacob sees return from when he was deceiving But there's a difference here because the deception is coming from the other side, and it's now, even though Laban is deceiving, you'll see Yahuah blessing Jacob through all of this. Go ahead, Mike.
It just slipped my mind what I was gonna say. I just got distracted with something. You can come back to me. Sorry.
No problem, Mike. What else do we see here?
I'm amazed what I see here. I see a lot of left halves in here. I think I'll go through some of those because they're important. But as I see here, before I do that, I see that his, like you said, his countenance has changed towards Jacob, and now the agreement that they had, he's not liking what he's seen going to have, because now all the ones being born are coming out in favor of Jacob. It's like, oh no, I can't have this. We got to change this. This ain't fair. You know, that's, even though it's what we agreed upon. But that's what I see in here. So he's complaining to his wife here that he's done all this and he's changed his wages 10 times. So he keeps changing things on him. And Elohim, Yahuah, he's given him that he hasn't been hurt by this, but he still sees that this guy's not treating him right. Mm-hmm. So as we look into these left tabs, we see, I'm just going to begin. He said he heard a left tab, the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away a left tab, all that our fathers, all that was our fathers, and of that which was our fathers has he gotten a left tab, all the glory. So we see these, they understand the covenant agreements that were made, and the sons are looking at this and they're saying, this is not right, because all of the barakah, all of the covenant that was our fathers is now being taken away from us. So then we see in verse 2, and Jacob beheld a left out the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as it was before. So things have changed here. His covenant countenance or agreement with him now is turned sour from what we're seeing. Then in the 5th, he said, and then I said unto them, I see a left eye of your father's countenance. Again, he's mentioning that, and that it's not towards me as it was before. So he's mentioned it twice there, about this covenant that has been changed or has been breached, and then 6, and he says, and you know that with all my power I have served the left eye, your father. So he held strong to his covenant agreement with the father and did what he was talking about. But then in the next verse it says, and your father has deceived me and changed the left eye, my wages. So that was a covenant thing that he's changed. And I think what I'm seeing here is that because of these things, he's saying, my Elohim has not allowed this to happen. He keeps baracking me or blessing me, with these spotted cattle, as I've agreed in the covenant. Even though he changes it, he was with me, so it doesn't matter. Then we see in 9, he says, thus Elohim taken away a left eye of the cattle of your father and given them to me. So because of his deceit and his breaking of the covenant that he had, Yahuwah is now, he's changed the covenant towards giving him towards Jacob here, which is pretty cool if we see this. So that's all the left tabs, but there's a lot that I see that has to do with covenants and agreements being broken. And why is it that Yahuwah changes it? He didn't have to do nothing. Vengeance is mine. He says, you don't got to do nothing, right? Isn't that what the scriptures tell us? And we see that as a witness right here. Yahuwah he's not allowing this guy to break this covenant. I don't care what you do. You can change it 10 times. I'm going to give him 10 times, 100 times more back. And you're going to have to witness it. And your sons. Isn't that cool? Yahuwah's got his back. That's what I see.
Man, you preaching, Brother Rick.
JP was silent on it, so it had to come out somehow.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Man, when I looked at it, because we're watching Laban it's like he's watching every birth, right? Because he's looking for things to go in his favor. And every time he switches the deal, Yah increases Jacob. So he doesn't even allow that deception or that swindling to overtake him. And he puts his hand on Jacob's flock. What shook me is that it was deception or a deceiving word from his sons that caused them to look at Jacob differently. Because Jacob's right. He served him, 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel, and then 6 more years after that, he had been, the perfect servant. There was no reason for him to think that way, but deception always slides in. You know what I mean? And that's what we got to, protect our minds and hearts from. Deception will always slide in, even in this assembly. We have to be sensitive to hear that word, what that person says, what that person does, because the enemy does not like what's going on here. He does not like the unique way in which we study. Where do you find, brothers and sisters coming together, breaking down the word together, being vulnerable, sharing, being open, being honest? As an elder brother, I don't know what that means. Maybe you can help me. You know what I mean? That type doesn't happen all the time. It's very hard to find, and the enemy doesn't like it. So we got to be watchful. We got to always be on watch for the deceptive movements of the people that call themselves in Yah. You know what I mean? And it's no different here.
I say too bad. I don't care if he likes it or not.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it. I think Yahuah loves it.
Yeah. Anything else we see here? First 10 verses? Brother Marshall?
Oh. Yeah, I see how like when Yah would lead you somewhere, right? Because Yah led Jacob to Laban to get a wife, but then he was running away from his brother too. But then though Yah brought him there, Laban was a deceiver, he was a thief, he was pagan, he was a liar, so then but Jacob became his servant. And because Jacob was faithful to his master, though his master was a pagan and he was a thief and all that what Laban was, though his master was a pagan, he was still faithful. So Yah honored him. He kept his promise. I mean, it goes back to the following verses. It talks about Jacob making a vow to Yahuah. So Yahuah is keeping his promises, but also the main thing I see is also the faithfulness of Jacob towards Laban throughout all these years. Then Yahuah is always, whatever they intend for you, evil, he turns it for good. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow and forever. So that's what I see in right now about the goodness of Yahuah when you are faithful, even if they reject him, but still you are faithful to them. You don't reward them for what they do. You reward them good for whatever that is that may come your way.
Absolutely. And and what a lesson for Jacob too, because Jacob was one that usurped the natural flow of what Yahuwah was doing, and what him and his mother deceived to get what he got, right? When it was coming his way anyway. So here he sees it from the other point of view. This guy is being deceiving, he's being deceptive towards me, but Yah made the way through regardless of what the enemy did. So this is a lesson, and this is a building of his faith as well towards Yah Elohim, so
Hallelujah.
guys, we can see that, we can witness that as we read through here too.
Yeah, and it goes back to who Jacob is, Yasharal, is how Mashiach says that even if the gates of hell come against my assembly, they will not prevail, they will not prosper. So what does it mean? You got to remain faithful. You can't be unfaithful and say that, oh, they're going to come against me. They're going to overcome you if you're not faithful. So then, but we are Yasharal, we got to be faithful in all things. That's like the lesson that I'm getting from it too, of like us being that body, Yasharal, Jacob, but now we call by a new name. But then how we have to be faithful everywhere that Yah, whatever Yah will give us, even how we have to be faithful with whatever he gives us to prosper, to multiply, so, but that's a good lesson, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, brother.
I hear some wisdom coming out of you there, brother.
Oh Yahuwah, it's all of us, there's never like a dull moment, I should say, with Yahuwah. It's like it's him who's doing it, you know.
Hallelujah.
Keep the lamps burning, keep the lamps burning. That's all you gotta do.
Well, that means you better keep that oil in that lamp.
Yes, that's the point. That you need the oil to keep the lamps burning. So
Keep,
preparation.
keep that ruach flowing, baby.
Hallelujah.
Praise Yah.
Hallelujah.
So since all that wisdom is a flowing through Brother Marshall, why don't you take the next 10 verses, brother?
See how
Hallelujah.
he slid that in there like that? That was smooth.
Paying attention to the Ruach. Matter of
Come
fact,
on.
read all the way to stop at verse 22.
So, got it. And the angel of El spoke unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up now your eyes and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring straight, speckled and grizzled. For I have seen all that Laban does unto you. I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, and where you vowed a vow unto me. Now arise, get you out from this land, and return unto the land of your kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us, and has quiet devoured also our money. For all the riches which El has taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever El has said unto you, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his women upon camels, and he carried away his cattle, all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padan Aram, for to go to El Yitzhak, his father, in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. And Yaakov stole away unawares to Laban the Aramee, am I right? Aramee. And that he told him that he fled. In that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed away the river, and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And he was told Laban on the third day that Yaakov was fled.
What you see there, brother?
I see the angel speaking to Yaakov and bringing the message, and not seeing that it's like it's bringing the message of Yahuwah, but speaking the words of Yahuwah as a messenger, and testifying of the promise that was made, the vow that was made. It's like though Jacob made it, Yah heard it, and he's keeping that vow. And also after it, Jacob didn't just, he heard the command of Yah to leave, but then Jacob went to his councils, he went to his women, and he, so like the way that they answered is as if he came and was like, so what do you guys think? Like, should we go? So they agree. They're like, no, we getting out of here. So then now they get up. So without even the consent of Laban, they flee away. It's like in Egypt when we ran away. They ran away. So never be afraid to run away. When Yahuwah said go, go. So I see that, and then for now that's what I have. Like just
Good. When I looked at you said the angel of Yah, it appears that this might be in his dream, the angel of genuine deity, meaning this is Yah showing up in his dream. You know what I mean? Giving him a direct command, because what he's doing is he's actually doing Jacob's name. Jacob's name is the one who supplants. That's what Jacob means. The one who supplants, who uproots. But here it's Yahuah doing, because ultimately he's the one that moves us. He's the one that points us in the right direction. So I saw that just in that first couple verses. So I'm glad you pulled that out, because it goes back into what you were saying before in his name change, you know, from Jacob to Israel. So Yasharal. Good stuff, brother. Go ahead, JP.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting on verse 19, and how it says Rachel has stolen the images that were her father's, and that was different, you know. And then I looked up the word, and it's a teraf. I don't know how you say it, teraphim, maybe teraphim. It says in the Strong's Concordance, it says a healer, teraphim, singular or plural, family idol. You know, so that was, I don't know, you know, I didn't know what to take from that, whether she was, you know, maybe she was kind of like, I guess in a sense, I would look at it like maybe she wasn't fully, you know, following Yah. Like maybe there was still some of that idolatry in her, you know what I mean? And she thought, oh, I got to take this with me before we flee. You know what I mean? Like that was something precious that wherever they were going to go, she was going to keep it as a, some type of idolatry, I guess, you know. So I thought that was interesting, though, you know. So, but Yah uses us all, you know, no matter what. So praise Yah.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I had actually looked into that, because I think a couple chapters ago, I was looking at the differences between Rachel and Leah, if you guys remember, and we were talking about how Yah pulls out Leah's inner beauty and Rachel's outer, but at the same time, it was Leah whose heart seemed to be bent more towards Yah than Rachel was, and we liking the idols to it. But then when I looked into that idol thing just a little bit while y'all were talking about the calendar. And here's what I found, guys and ladies. So apparently the idols in Laban's family were an inheritance to the one who received the inheritance. So remember we were talking about how the two sisters were to receive the inheritance. Apparently the boys were born later, right? So now the boys come in, the sons come in, they slander Jacob, and they start to receive, they're going to receive the inheritance now. But Rachel here wants to take away with her what she feels is rightfully hers. So I don't think it was a sense of her necessarily falling back and worshiping them, but grabbing onto them as a sense of, this is due me. This is my inheritance, because the one who inherited the property always got these idols. And when I looked more into it, Laban's family was, they were called henotheistic. Anyone ever hear that word before? Henotheistic. And what that means is they believed in Yah, right? But they believed that Yah was the Yah of all other Yahs, all other gods. Meaning that they didn't just believe that Yah was the one and only, they believed that he was the top one out of all of them. So there was still a polytheistic belief, because they believed that their other gods existed versus it just being an idol. And that Yah was the top one. So there still was some kind of cultural adherence to idols in that sense. So to me, it looked like Rachel was grabbing onto something that she thought was due her for the inheritance that she thought should have been coming to Jacob for his servantry towards her father, because it was promised to him. And then the sons want to come in and they want to change that. So what do you guys think?
I see that same kind of thing. You know, I think that if you look at what she was saying earlier, is that basically her inheritance from her father was basically given to Jacob. You know, she's seen this too.
Right.
So now everything that's hers is, she doesn't have anything. So or she wants something of her father's, I think. And evidently this was something that was important to him, probably as an idol, that he carried with him, like they did Asherus, and, they had them little things they would carry with them or of Baal, those kind of things. So I'm thinking that that's what it is. And that's why she took it, I think. But I see Martha's got her hand up for a while here. So
Martha and then Nate. Go ahead, sis.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that when she was taking it away from her father because she didn't want her father to do idol worship. I took it more as her intentions were more noble than anything. Because if you start reading, I think she started more, God starts noticing her more when he remembered her, that he allowed her to have a child. It says that, let me see here, bear with me. God remembered Rachel in the sense that he took cognizance of her virtues. So I think he started becoming aware, Rachel really started becoming aware of who God really was after God allowed her to have a child, and then everything that she saw that God provided for her husband, for Jacob. I think it was more of her taking the idols, more of a way of keeping her father away from that. I don't really see it as something that she's worshiping the idols, because she saw how God moved in their life. And even when Jacob went ahead and spoke to her and her sister, they both, with Leah, they both went and they said, so now whatever God has said to you, do. Both of them actually acknowledged that. So I don't think they would be agreeing with God and then at the same time idol worshiping.
Yeah, no, we agree with you. We were saying the same thing, that it was more of what was due to her, based upon their inheritance and what was owed Jacob, rather than her taking them to worship. So,
but I think the idols were taken more away because she didn't want her father really worshiping idols. I think it was more for that reason than her actually getting in.
that's an interesting perspective. That very well could be possible if she's seen that and was just removing it as a way of removing that idol from his life and taking it. But does it share any points further on about the importance of this thing that she took? Is it bringing her a curse as they go on? I don't know. I haven't looked forward, but I'm just interested to see, how that plays in, I guess. So as we get.
Actually, I think that's why her death came so soon, because even when Jacob went ahead and he's talking to the father, he doesn't know that Rachel took the idol. And I think there's a promise between both of them, if I'm not mistaken. I don't quote me on it because I don't recall it right now. But I think that's why her death actually came sooner than what it was really supposed to. So it's like but he didn't know. Jacob didn't know that she had taken the idols. And that's when they made like he said something to Laban, which is her father. Well, as we read along, you'll see it. Jumping ahead, sorry.
yeah, I've never looked at it from that perspective, that she was trying to assure that her father would no longer worship idols. But we'll continue reading to see if that comes out. Who else? Brother Nate, go ahead. But good, thank you, Sister Martha. Good insight.
Yeah, I was just going to point out verse 20 and 19 and 20. It says, when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols.
Mm-hmm.
And then that word stole is the same word that they use there for, and Jacob deceived Laban. That word ganab is the word that's used there for stole. And so I see, the angel, when the Malach tells him to get up and leave, I don't see him telling him to leave in the middle of the night, but I see possibly a little bit of a lack of faith that Yahuah was with him. Instead of telling Laban straight to his face, I don't like what you've done. I don't like what you've been doing, and so I'm taking my wages and the women that I've worked for and leaving. Instead of doing that, he leaves in the middle of the night. And so I just point out that the word, I see a little bit of a lack of faith, as he's building all of us, I think that it applies to us today. Sometimes we, Yahuah is with us and we get like a message and we leave in the middle of the night instead of maybe confronting. But that same word for stole the idols, he also, deceived Laban, stole from Laban is kind of how they worded that. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I found something in Nelson's commentary. Now this, weigh it with a grain of salt. We gotta look deeper in these commentaries. But something interesting in regards to what we were just talking about with Martha, and it says it's speaking of verse 31, chapter 31, verse 19. It says, in this culture, possession of the household idol was the right of the principal heir. So in this case, it would have been Jacob, right? Because Jacob would have been the son that would have been the heir to possessions. So it says, Rachel probably did not steal the idols in order to worship them, to retain the rights of the principal heir for Jacob. Ultimately, Yahuwah's blessing on Jacob was more important for him than any rights derived from being Laban's principal heir. So it went back to what I was originally thinking, is that she thought that the heir's rights were being taken away by her brothers and it would no longer go to Jacob. So she grabbed that which was set forth as a possession of the heir, the idols, for her household, for Jacob. And that would be the reason she took them, more so than not wanting her father to worship them. But we could stand corrected. This is just a commentary I was reading. I just wanted to share what I saw. So what do you guys think about that? Anybody? Martha?
No, I don't have no comments.
Okay.
I think as we go along.
Okay.
No, I do think that's an interesting commentary. I mean, because I feel like at that time, I don't know, it kind of made me think about inheritance. As a son, you're inheriting, and we've seen that throughout the scriptures as we read through Genesis. There's a huge thing with inheritance. You know what I mean? And so it kind of made you think like, how do you hold the inheritance as the older son compared to the younger son? And there was really no physical thing, but more that, you were just the older son. And in this case, like the commentary shows, like you actually had a physical item. Like, I have this is my paperwork, this is my deed to show that we are the heirs in a sense. So I just thought that was interesting for that perspective.
Absolutely. Sister Linda.
Yes. Can you explain to me how Jacob would be Laban's heir? Because I mean, after Laban had sons, wouldn't his own sons be the heir? Jacob was actually just a relative, in many aspects, but he had his own sons that by Hebrew culture would have been the principal heirs in his home. So how would Rachel?
Well, in previous chapters, the other sons weren't around. So I don't know whether they were born later and they became eligible to be heir, or whether at that time, because it only in the previous chapters, it only talks about Rachel and Leah. So the son-in-law would have been the heir in that case, in this culture. With the sons now in the picture, that changes. Rachel, what was promised to Jacob through his servantry, no longer stood as the sons came in. So that's where scripture relates back to when it talks about Jacob being the heir here.
Thank you.
No problem, sis. All right, so the next, who wants to take the next 10 verses? Brother Nate. Go ahead, brother.
So you want me to read 23 through 33?
23. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Then he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night, Elohim came to Laban the Aramean and said to him, "Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil." Then Laban overtook Jacob, and Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done that you have deceived me, and have driven my daughters off like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you, but Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourself that you do not speak to Jacob, either good or evil. And now you have gone because you greatly long for your father's house, but why did you steal my mighty ones?" Or my Elohim, they would say. And Jacob answered and said to you, "Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let them live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me and take it with you." For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tents of the two female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent.
What do you see there, brother?
Yeah, I'm looking here. I see again, you know, kind of that point that I brought out earlier about that word ganab, stealing. So I don't fully understand the culture, but when Laban says in verse 29, you know, it is the power of my hand to do evil to you. It seems that with the way how he left, and parted, that they didn't maybe make a covenant, or there wasn't a separation that was made in a formal sense. And so because he left as like a thief in the night and took everything, even though it was wages that he had earned, maybe it's not always what we're doing, but also the approach of how we're doing it is what I see. And so we see that that Yahuah, you know, guarded him and sent Laban a dream to protect Jacob. But again, I see it as a testing of his faith and a building of you know, he's not yet Yisrael. You know, he's still Jacob. And so I see as he's being refined and tested, and his faith that Elohim is protecting him is being built, and we see this here. Even though he might not have done it in the best of ways, even though he was in the right, the way that he did it and how he left was a test of faith to maybe build him later on in his life.
Absolutely. I you know, it's funny. I was looking at verse 24, where Yah shows up to him in a dream, and you know, in verse 29, it was only that dream, the words of Yah, it held back, or should I say, intercepted or stilled the rage that Laban had. You know what I mean? Because he might have killed him. otherwise. So great point, brother. Sister Linda.
Yes. I see something very interesting here that I didn't see before. So I was trying to do a little study on it before our first study started this morning. I haven't gotten too far, but it's definitely something I'll be looking more into. And that is, well, twice in this particular chapter, Laban is described as the Syrian. Okay, so we know he was a Syrian. Now, when I went back and started looking at this genealogy, I started with Abraham. Abraham told his servant Eliezer to find a wife for Isaac, go to my kindred, to my country. So when Eliezer went to his country, he got Rebekah, who was Laban's sister.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Rebekah was a Syrian. And then Rebecca had Jacob and Esau, and Jacob she sent back to her people, and he got Rachel and Leah, who are the daughters of Laban the Syrian. So all these people, all of them were of a Syrian ethnicity. I found that Israel from the creation of New Israel and Syria, they have been in a state of war since the establishment of the state of Israel. They fought 3 major wars. Syria has never recognized, till today, has never recognized the state of Israel, does not accept Israel passports for entry into Syria. There has been no type of diplomatic relationships between the two countries. And what I find so astonishing is that you have all of these countries. You have the United States, you have Russia, Iran, Turkey, the Kurds, Iraq, Israel, the NATO allies. All of them is involved in this small little country's conflict of supposedly being them, the people wanting to oust the family that rules, that the Assads that rule there. But I think there's a whole lot more to this. This looks like this points a lot to them having an origin of the original Hebrews also there. And it appears as if they monitor that country and try to eliminate, disseminate anything. I don't know exactly what they be looking for there, but there's something that they are targeting right there in that area to try to ensure, I believe, that the true Hebrews never rise, or something to that nature, but that's just an assumption. But I'm going to really look more into this and everything, because there's too many times that Israel has targeted Syria unjustly. And I think we need to pay more attention to what's going on in Syria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, there's so many truths about what you just shared, and so many things that we need to be aware of. I mean, I used to be really into politics at one time, not so much anymore, but I do pay attention to the signs, specifically the signs we see in scripture, the way the economy turns, the way these wars are taking place. I think I even mentioned it earlier in this morning's message, but these are the beginning of the labor pains that Yah talks about. These are the things that we're supposed to point to for the ushering in of his return. And there's no question that the Hebrews are being held down, and an imposter is standing up. And I think there's some truth to what you're saying about that. So I'll leave that there. But yeah, continue to look at that. I will do the same. That's a very, very interesting, number one, insight, and number two, study. So praise Yah for that.
Praise Yah.
Brother Marshall.
Wow, Sister Linda, thank you so much. Your insight was wonderful. But as we were talking, I was looking into more the spiritual aspect of the Syrians, because when the way that we're tracing down Levan and also it just shows that, I mean, we've got to understand that we've been grafted into the natural tree, so we are the same people. So then now looking into the Assyrian, there's prophecies about the Antichrist being the Assyrian, called the Assyrian, and also the spiritual aspect that I was seeing was the wheat and the tares, how they look alike, but then you have to wait until the harvest to know which one is the wheat. And I kind of I was looking at as we were talking, I'm trying more to look into it in the spiritual aspect of like our origins, but also how it could be manifested, like today, even among us, of like understanding our origins, but also seeing how the enemy could be very similar, but then his fruits will be completely different from Mashiach's fruits, or rather how we bear fruits in Mashiach. That's one thing that I had to add, and also thank Brother Nate for what he brought up about Jacob, because when I was saying earlier, when Yah gives you a command, you just leave. But then when you were talking about that was cowardly, like the way that I should have put it, not having to go before him, before Levan, and say, I'm a man. Like this is my family. I'm gonna leave, but then he didn't do it. So me, I was like, I was just reading through. I was like, yeah, like Yah told him to leave, so he left. He didn't tell Levan that he should have went as a man as a head of his house. He should have went and stood up as a man. But then he explained how he was afraid, that he thought that Levan was gonna, take his daughters away from him, which we know Levan. So Levan, his actions are very unpredictable. Though he's saying in previous chapters that wherefore did you flee away secretly and steal away from me, and did not tell me that I might have sent you away with mirth and with songs and timbrels and with harps. I'm like, really? Like, really, you would have done that? So like, just looking at the character of Levan, I'm just wondering if that's actually what he would have done. But it's really insightful of seeing the actions that how we should stand. And also, eventually Jacob is going to learn his lesson, as we learn in the lesson also today, of having to stand and not being afraid of anything. But Yahuwah still comes through. Like, no matter what, Yahuwah he's still protecting you, because he knows on who you stand. And as he's even telling Levan not to speak evil nor good to Jacob, because after all, Jacob is carrying Yahuwah's command to leave. So Yahweh is coming through. Yeah, that's all I have. But I want to thank you again, sister, for that insight. Definitely, we got to keep on looking into it.
Yeah, I think a couple things out of what you said, Marshall, are interesting. One is the cowardice move. You can look at it that way. You can look at it as being cowardice. I'm not going to say that it wasn't. But when I read it, I think that it's genuine fear here is what we see. And yes, we have to have a different type of fear, fearing Yahuwah, but that he will fight our battles for us. And I think that comes through, as you're saying. His faith is built through this experience, without question. But when I looked at him being genuinely fearful of what Laban's response would be, it also ties into him saying, my family is innocent of the stuff you're talking about, because here's what happened. He had a genuine fear, right? And he left at night because he feared that Laban wouldn't let him take his family. But also what happened was that Rachel stole the goods. So to Laban, it looks like not only are my idols gone, but you snuck out like you stole my idols. So to him, there's an extra anger there. But so that makes Jacob's act look cowardice if you add in the theft. if you take away the theft, I think there was a genuine fear that this guy is never going to let me leave. He promised to let me leave after 14 years, and then I worked longer, and he still won't let me leave. So
Yeah.
I think there's an honest view we have to look at in what Rachel did to add to it versus what Jacob's movement was without knowing that Rachel did it. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of
Hallelujah.
takes
Yeah. Totally.
cowardice move and more of like a courageous, I got to protect my family. This is the way to do it. But ultimately, he had to trust Yah and all these things, which he learns how to do. You see what I'm saying?
I do. Definitely. Yeah.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
that definitely opens up that whole thought process for what Jacob was thinking. You know what I mean at that moment, and how he was caught. Really, he got caught.
We dead, y'all. We dead. Laban is here.
And Yahuah had to tell. Yahuah is the one that simmered down Laban. He calmed him down. But otherwise,
Yes.
it might have been off with your head, you know, and the rest of your family, you know. JP.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring out the I just thought it was amazing that Yahuwah spoke to Laban, you know, just for him to speak to Laban. I thought that was amazing. You know, it was, you see that in verse 24. And Elohim came to Laban, the Syrian, in a dream by night. And then he warns Laban, you know, he says, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And then because of that, we get to verse 29, and Laban gives that reverence, I would say, to Yah. And he says, it is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the Elohim of your father spoke unto me yesterday night, take thou no, and he tells him, take down that heed that thou speak to Jacob, not to Jacob either good or bad. But it just reminded me of, like, I don't know, there's a lot of accounts where Yah will come to people in their dream, you know, and a lot of times people they see the truth of Yah, you know, and it's that encounter that gives them that transformation or just something where they start to see the truth. They read the Bible and they start to search and that sort of thing. But it was I just found that interesting. I was like, wow, like, you know. And he says, and then it kind of, then in verse 29, it also plays into a sense. He's like, I don't know, it's like kind of like I guess for me, like a flesh and a spirit thing, you know, because Laban's like, if it was up to me, you know, I would have went, you know, I can only imagine what his mind was thinking, you know.
Yeah.
But he's like, but he had to, and I'm just putting this in my own perspective, is he had to walk in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? Instead of walking in the flesh, Laban had to walk in the spirit and then he had to do the right thing, which was told to him by Yah, because, I mean, it didn't seem like he believed in Yahuwah, because he's mad at them, telling Jacob, you guys stole my gods. You guys stole my mighty ones. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was just I just seen this, what happened there was just amazing. And I see that happening even today. You know, there's people who have accounts like that where they have these visions or dreams, and it changes their whole life. You know, so I praise Yah for that. You know, so.
Hallelujah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In the dream, I mean, this is the same way he came to Abimelech. You know, remember that? You know, and it's the same way in Numbers. He comes to Balaam, right, in a dream, and walk in the spirit. That I'm not sure of. You know what I mean? I think he was just feared. You know, he's not gonna, this Yah speaks to me in a dream. These other idols don't. So I'm gonna pay attention to what this one's saying. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the henotheism is that, yes, they believe in the Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob because he speaks, he moves, but there's also these other gods that he's above versus he's the only one. You know what I mean? So the henotheists, they believe that, yes, there is a God, so to speak, that's on top, but there still exists other ones. Yahuwah told Abraham, I am that I am. I am the one that exists. You know, I mean, Moshe, I am the one that exists. There are no others. No one else exists. So there's a difference between believing in Yah as the only Yah and believing that there are other Yahs. He's just the one on top. So I think that's more what Laban and them believe. Remember, they're connected to the pagan worshipers of old. You know, Abraham's parents. What's Abraham's father? Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying. So I'm not quite sure he was walking in the spirit, but I know what you meant.
I believe what brother JP was saying, that when you obey the spirit, that's when you walk in the spirit.
Absolutely. He definitely obeyed the true and living Yah. You know what I mean? He's the one that shows up. He's the one that puts the fire out. He's the one that starts a fire on a wet. What's the passage where the water soaks the altar and Yah still starts the fire? You know, and I think Elijah's making fun of other. Where are your gods? You know what I mean? So this is the one and true and living. So yeah, he obeys and follows. Sister Martha.
I was also thinking that based on everything that was being said, that also when Rachel took the idols, to them, the idols could reveal secrets when they went to worship it. So I was thinking, by the way they left, could it be something that she also took them because she didn't want her father going to the idols so it could reveal where they were heading? Because even when the father went ahead and found them, that they were having the discussion, he said, now you have left because you longed greatly for your father's house. He said, but why did you steal my gods? So that means he didn't notice it until after the fact. He didn't notice that his idols were gone until afterwards. So I was just thinking that maybe that's another reason why she took the idols, because she didn't want her father also going back to them, because to them, their idols could reveal secrets. That's just an input.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but the idea that those idols will reveal anything, being more than just a notion, you know, it could be, but I don't necessarily see that so far in Scripture. But it's a possibility. I mean, I think when you deal with situations where you have idol worship, there are many different things that could go through the mind of those who follow those gods. But we know those gods don't speak back, you know. So the difference here is whether or not it would actually cause them to see something or have insight about something based upon their worship in those things. But I would say, you know, let's continue reading to find out. But I think there may be more here about this idol worship that we don't see. So I am not going to cancel out what you just said, sis. That's for sure.
Well, I read into a little bit while you guys were talking, and there's a lot of belief that he was some kind of like magician or soothsayer.
Okay.
And that's what he used this idol, his god, was part of that. So she be right. What she's saying is maybe that is what's behind here, because there is a lot of talk about that's what he was, and you know what he believes. So again, there's a possibility.
All right, let it go on the record that Sister Martha may be correct. Thank you, sister. We correct ourselves here. We don't go on with a thought that might not be true. So praise Yah. History is important, you know, I mean, understanding, you know, because sometimes Scripture will give us something and history will help reveal it, you know what I mean? And I think part of knowing that culture and knowing what they believe could possibly lead to that conclusion that you have, sister. So praise Yah. Thanks, Brother Rick.
Sure.
Anything else there? We see?
One thing he was speaking here about when he came to him in that dream was, I'm wondering if he like was he sleep dreaming or was he like daydreaming? You know, was that where he got like a vision or something in that regards? Because when I read it, it almost seemed like he was awake because he's like, here I am. You know, he's speaking to him in this dream. So it's like, I'm thinking, was he awake when he was showing him this? Is that what he's referring to, like a vision or a dream where he's revealing something to him? He's speaking to him? Because it sounds like he's like having a conversation kind of with him, you know? I don't know. That's just something that kind of caught my attention. There's a few times I've heard you guys talking about it.
It says, verse 24, in a dream by night. So, I mean, it will be an assumption or maybe even assertion, but most sleep at night unless he was working your shift, Rick, and he was.
Right. No, that may be a possibility. Now, when you put the night part in there, I guess you can kind of assume that's what he's talking about there. It's just when he answers, "I'm here. Here I am." You know, it's like we hear that statement every time Yahuah calls somebody. You know, if you're sleeping, would you respond in that way? I mean, is it spiritual man that said, "Here I am," or, you know, I don't know. Maybe a dumb question, but it's just something that popped in my head when I heard it.
You said, "Here I am." What do you mean?
Well, isn't that where when he's speaking to him, he's like, he calls out to him? And where does he say? There was a part where he was called out to him in the dream. Where was the dream part?
Well, it's verse 24. He says, but Yahuah had come to Laban, or Elohim had come to Laban the Syrian, in a dream by night, and said to him, "Be careful that you speak to Jacob either good nor bad."
I must be thinking of when he came to Jacob in the dream.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is what I was talking about. When the Malakim or of Yahuah, which I believe probably is Yahusha, spoke to him in a dream, because it doesn't say night there, it just says in a dream, saying Jacob, and he said, "Here I am."
Yeah.
And then he said he lifted up my eyes so I could see, that he could see these things. So it's like he's awake here. Yeah, as far as that guy, yeah, he definitely was sleeping, I think, at night when he gave him the vision. But two different views of him speaking to him in a dream. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, one was Laban, one was Jacob.
Right. So he was speaking to Laban while he was awake, or Laban when he was sleeping, Jacob when he was awake. Is that can we perceive that or no? I'm just looking at the two. There was two dreams there in those verses or in this section here. One was Jacob and one was Laban. But one says by night, the other one doesn't. One, he's responded to him, and the other one, he's kind of like listening. He's coherent. He understands what you had said. Don't say a good thing or a bad thing. What does that mean? Shut your mouth. Don't say nothing. If you can't say good or bad, how do you talk? But he still spoke because he understood. He
said, "Around my elect, you tread light."
Right.
You walk with tiptoe like you're walking through the lilies when you're talking to my man, Jacob. That's what he said. And he did thus and so.
Gotcha.
I think the whole point was to withhold his anger, step back, extinguish the wrath that you feel. Because like JP and Nate and Marshall said, there was fire there. He was angry there. Something was stole from him. Jacob was deceiving him in the night like a thief.
Right.
He was coming.
Yeah.
So Yahuah stepped in and said, "Look here." You know what I mean?
Take his life.
He said, "Count to 10. Count to 10."
Right.
And then carry on.
Take a couple breaths. Don't do anything rash. Then you're gonna make me come out.
Go ahead, Brother Marshall.
Hallelujah, brothers, hallelujah. But you guys were talking, I see when Yahuwah came to Laban, and would that's just an assumption. Would Jacob be praying for Yahuwah to come through? You like, for instance, when we start praying for certain things, that's when Yahuwah he moves, right? And he inhabits the praise of his people. And so now I came to 2 Corinthians 10 when it says that, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of Yah. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Mashiach. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete. Jacob's obedience was complete. And as our obedience has to be complete, so then when we pray, it's like, if our weapons is not like the world, so then we pray into Yah. We got it together. We know that there's so much deceptions. We know that there's so many people who may go on through things. We're asking Yah to move into this. We actually have to visit that person or to do this. Like, I believe he would move because that's the divine power. You know, and he inhabits the praise of the people. You know, like that. I mean, that's what I saw when we were talking about like him talking to Laban. Laban was, you know, like he was disobedient in a way. But so sometimes we may say that Yahuwah doesn't talk to sinners, but then he does. We see through our scriptures that he does visit them to turn their hearts around. That's one thing I had, and then the other one is when you said earlier that Yahuwah is the one who exists, and in Shamayim, what they do is what Mashiach said in the prayer, hallowed be his name. So then they hallow in his name day and night. And they praising him as to tell him, you are the one who was, you are the one who is, and you are the one who is to come. You are forever. You are the living one. So then they tell him this all the time. So that, you know, like, you are living, you are the living one, you're the living one, you're the one who was, the one who is, and the one who is to come. And it's just like, and the more you exalt him, it's like, that's how I was like this, the more you exalt him, is the more he is exalted. So there's no end to his height. He is the most high. So the more we exalt him, we know who he is. And we come before him with these intercessions, with these things that demolish arguments, every pretension that sets itself against his knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because they have rejected my Torah. So then if we can keep on talking about people who disobey Torah, but we go to him, he's the one who was working, like you said earlier, you know, and he does this. He can visit them and change their hearts. Who is the rock that will come from Shamayim and destroy Babylon? You know, so it's like, it's no man's hand that will build it, that will do this. It's his spirit, you know, but his people got to gather together with these beauties right here, you know, but it goes back to, that's Mashiach who's doing it. He's the rock, you know, and Yahuwah is the one who leads the Mashiach, and he's the sanctuary. So that's literally what I was getting about Yahuwah's name and intercessions, and what Paul said about what Mashiach has given us he's given us the power to be sons of Yahuwah. That's what the power is. Not only that, the power is to walk as a blameless life, to come out of sin, to understand how we have to live, how to withstand evil, how to withstand temptations, how to cast out demons, even when we have dreams of like lustful dreams and everything that we on the go today. And but it's him who works, you know, that's the power that he gave us to stand in holiness. But that's all I'm getting.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, you said a lot there, brother. And, you know, I can think back a couple of weeks ago, because one of the things you said was that Yahuwah, we have to allow, you know, because a lot of times we talk about, you know, letting the Ruach rule us and letting us walk, you know, and we look for these grandiose things to do to show that. But in the simplicity of our attitude, in the simplicity of how we respond to something or not respond to something, is how Yahuah works sometimes. And a couple of weeks ago, Rick remembers I had went to him and Jaliel about something that was burning in me. And I was angry about it. And I wanted to respond a certain way. And both of them brought clarity to the situation for me. And I was able to step back and say, okay, I need to calm down a little bit here. And that's what we do with each other. We bring truth through our witness. We bring truth through our wisdom. We bring truth through our understanding, because we're not always ready to respond correctly when we think we have to defend ourselves. Because if you leave it up to me, without Yah, I'm going back to my boxing days. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, you know what I mean? Do you want to cross the threshold?
You want to have a
coming
feast?
at me like
want to
that?
have a feast?
You know what I mean? And, you know, that's what I'm left to without Yah. You know what I mean? That's why, right. That's why it's important for me to have brothers and co-laborers around me that can call me out, you know, or that I can go to when I'm feeling a certain way, or because the first thing I said to them before I said anything about what happened, I said, brothers, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I was already bending one knee. The other knee was still straight. You know what I mean? One knee was bended, and I was ready to submit to getting the full understanding what Yah was trying to show me and how to be patient with this situation, because it, you know, I wanted to respond in a way that was ungodly, you know, and it was my right to. You know, it's so, sometimes the line is so thin, you can feel like what you're doing outside of Yah is the right thing to do. And it's not. It's always waiting on him. It's always reacting like he does. It's always paying attention to the Ruach when it says, move. Don't move.
Hallelujah. Acknowledge
Speak.
him.
Be quiet. Peace. Be still. You know, all of those things matter when we're trying to learn how to do this walk. And sometimes we make it bigger than it needs to be. It's the little things that we do. How do I come in the house after a long day of work where I'm frustrated and my wife is smiling? Do I respond with a smile, or do I show her how rough my day was? Or do I respond with a smile, come in and then tell her, share with her how my day was? You know what I mean? Do I project my attitude, the way I felt 5 minutes ago to my son when he wants to run up and show me something that I'm not ready to look at yet? Or do I say, listen, Darius, let me put my bag down, let me use the bathroom, and then we'll talk. You know what I mean? It's the response. And Yah has to show up in those little things too. You know what I mean? So we always got to be tied in. And man, how the Yahuah shows us these things through these people in Bereshit.
Hallelujah.
You know, looking at the examples of how we're supposed to follow, how we're supposed to respond, and sometimes not respond. You know, so praise God, man. That what you said hit a chord, man. It just reminded me of something practical, you know, in my life, and you know, and being able to share that with you guys is necessary, you know. So
Hallelujah. It's the smallest things sometimes that count the most, you know, like a mustard seed. You know, like when Mashiach says to pray to the Father in the secret place, we don't know how important it is to not you don't have to have a word. You just kneel before the presence of the Almighty and you wait. You know, like it's so important. We forget how like the smallest things to us may not seem so important, but it's what's happening inside. You know, it's we don't wait to see it tangibly, but it's what's happening inside. You know, so all glory be to Yahuah.
praise Yah. I mean, I had no idea I was going to get that deep about that looking in Genesis, but
no,
that's Yah's word, man. That's Yah's word.
Hallelujah.
So I think we pretty much exhausted those 10 verses. Verses 34 to 44. You know what? Why don't we just read to the next person? Just read to the end. It's not that much. Who wants to take that? Brother Marshall.
Quick hand, Marshall. I guess you need to be unmuted. There you
Yes,
go.
I need to. Yeah. Thank you. You know, we like to share around here. So, you know, we're on the assignment of Timothy. I don't know if anybody gets this, but that was just a joke. 34. Now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tents and found them not. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before you. For the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my transgression? What is my sin that you have so hotly pursued after me? Whereas you have searched all my stuff, and what have you found of all your household stuff? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, that they may judge between us both. These 20 years have I been with you. Your ewes and your she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of your flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beast I brought not unto you. I bore the loss of it. Of my hand did you require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your cattle. And you have changed my wages 10 times. Except the heir of my father, the heir of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac has been with me, surely you had sent me away now empty. El has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you yesterday night. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that you see is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? Now therefore come, let us cut a covenant, I and you, and let it be for witness between me and you. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brothers, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap. And they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Yagar Zahaduda. Yagar Zahaduda. But Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and you this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed and Mitzpah. For he said, Yahuah watch between me and you when we are absent one from another. If you will afflict my daughters, or if you will take other women beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, El is witness between me and you. And Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast between me and you. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, so that you will not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. The heir of Abraham and the heir of Nechor, the heir of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Yitzhak. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount and called his brothers to eat bread. And they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. Hallelujah.
Go ahead, brother.
Right, that was a lot of reading. Now I
Yeah.
was taking like little notes as I was going. When he was talking to Laban about what is my sin that you have so hotly pursued me, whereas you have searched all my stuff and have found your household stuff. Said it. I forgot what. Something came in my heart about when he was looking at Laban and saying, "What have I done against you? Truly, like what when you coming against me?" And then he follows up by saying how he worked and suffered even for Laban all these years, and then Laban changed his wages. So Laban does not see all the like how we can keep on calling things out, but we don't see the good. But we see how Mashiach, when he judges like the churches, he's giving them what they do good and what they do evil. But then Laban seemed to not have taken that into consideration of the cold nights and the heat, and how even when the flocks were stolen or eaten by wild beasts, like Jacob had to find a way to replace it. So like all of these different things, he says, where's my transgression in this? Like I'm standing righteous. Why are you doing it? And the part where he says that El has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you yesterday night. So Yahuwah came and interceded for him because of his righteous standing. Like just to jump down, it says when it came to making the covenant, I see like a little division between like the name that he gives to the pillar, and then Yaakov gives another name. Like but then it comes back to the agreement here is that we're not coming against each other for harm. Like we're not going to come against each other for harm. And now when I see we're not coming against each other for harm is that Yahweh is the one who avenges. He's the one who revenges. So then he's the one who's going to pay everyone for the good they've done and evil for the evil that they've done. So then now we're not coming against each other for harm, but Yahweh is our judge. And we also see in the end 53 when Laban is speaking of the heir of Abraham, the heir of Nahor, and the heir of their father. So to Laban, Yah was the heir of Abraham, which he knew, and the heir of Nahor, which I believe was the father of Terah. So then that one, that's how he believed in his heir, in Yah, and the heir of their father. So then, but he doesn't say like the heir of Isaac, like he doesn't know that part, but like to him, Yah was the heir of Nahor. And also when they cut up the covenant, he offered sacrifice upon the mount and they ate bread. They broke the bread as even the memorial that Mashiach is asking us to keep in his name, that we break bread and we remember what he did, So if in the covenant, we remember the eternal covenant, even the faithful mercies of David. Yeah, that's.
No, that's good, man. I think a couple things out of that. This is the second time he set up the stones. Second time he set up this memorial for Yah. Remember, on his way to Haran, he did the exact same thing after his dream. And then it's interesting, two things. One, he says trespass and sin. And when I look at those two words, the trespass here means to overstep, and sin obviously means to miss the mark. So he uses both. He says, where did I overstep in my service for you? Where did I sin? Where did I miss the mark in service for you? So it's interesting how he pulls both of those things out and separates the two terms. And the other thing was when he called the place Jagar Sahabadutha, and then Jacob calls it Galeed. They literally mean the same thing. One is Aramaic, and Hebrew is Galeed. So they called it the same. It's the same word.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Nate. Yeah, Nate, and then JP.
Yeah, I see. Finally, maybe not finally. There's kind of like two types of like maybe like wrath that you have. There's the wrath that just is always flying off the handle at any little thing. It just it can dish it out, but it can't take it. So the second that it gets anything, inflicted upon itself, it's boisterous, it's mad. You know what I mean? And then we see what Jacob has. Verse 36. Jacob was wroth and contended with Laban. Jacob had been taken a lot for 20 years, and finally he stands up, and I'm kind of, I mean, maybe not necessarily happy with the way that he left, but he finally stands up for himself. I like what he says, and he doesn't fly off the handle, but he's angry enough to where he's finally like backed in that corner, and I see him say, like you treat me like a thief, I didn't take anything. He's like 20 years, he's I didn't eat any of the rams, of your sheep, and then anything that was torn, he says I bore the loss. He was like I on the day I was hot, at nighttime I was freezing cold. He was like, I sleep deprived myself, he 20 years, he said, I'm in your house, 14 years for your two daughters, which he got tricked by the way, as we know. And then 6 years for your flock, and you change my wages 10 times. And then he drops it on him, drops the truth. And he's like, unless I had a reputation, is essentially what he's saying, unless the Elohim of my father or of Abraham and the fear of Yitzhak, he's like, and you would have dumped me off. If I was just some regular guy, you would have I'd have nothing right now. You know what I mean? Leaving from what you're doing. And what really gets me is like Laban or Laban, he was told he was told not to say evil or good. And how does he reply after all that, right? Like, it's all laid out. Now it's there, like 20 years of oppression is finally coming out, you know what I mean? And Jacob finally, this I imagine him kind of like docile and timid, and not that he can't hold his own. It's just that he enjoys being, kind of not causing controversy, and because he's a strong guy and he can take a lot, you know what I mean? And so he just allows it to happen. Like, okay, well, that's who you are. That's not how I do things, he thinks in his mind, it's kind of how I see it. But then what's Laban say after all that 20 years of work that he's of wages and agreements and covenants? And what does Laban say in verse 43? It just irks me. Like, some people, like, he says, those daughters are my daughters, and those children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. That's what he says. Like, Yahuah tells him in a dream to tread lightly, you know what I mean? Not to say evil or good, and that's the comment after 20 years of work that he gets. Like, I don't know. I just we don't really see much more of Laban after this, because Jacob. If I was Jacob too, I do the same thing. Like kick rocks. Like, I'm out. Like, here's the covenant. Don't cross, on my side. Like, I see you again. Like, on my side. Like, it's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna cross paths no more. Like, I don't want to see you no more. I'm done with you for life. Like, I've done with 20 years. I see who you are. You know what I mean? And like, I don't want nothing to do with you. But they were nice about it. You know what I mean? And they had a meal and a covenant that they're not going to go back over. But I'm just really disappointed in Laban here. Like, his answer of someone serving for him for 20 years. And after all the times that he's tricked them and done this, and then he would say that these things are his. Oh man, it just bothers me. I can feel that long suffering wrath. You know what I mean? That, like, Yahuah, that he's built up for that day of judgment. I can feel like a little piece of that here. So just want to point that out.
Nah, that's real, man. I saw that, but the way that you expressed how it made you feel when you read it, it brought it out a little bit more. Like the nerve, the gall of him to say something like that. You know what I mean? After what this man is giving. Very good, brother. Very good. JP.
Oh yeah, no, I was just looking at the it was interesting. I mean, I find it always interesting when you see different languages in the scripture, you know, and the language they use for 31:47, the verse 31:47, which was Jegar Saha Dutha or Dutha. And as I looked up that word, it was out of the Aramaic tongue, you know, the Chaldean, and it meant, you know, I believe it says witness heap, you know,
Yeah.
and then because it was just funny, he was like, it says, and Laban called it Jegar Saha Dutha, but Jacob called it Galid, and then it goes down again. So therefore, was the name of it called Galid and Mitzpah, and then I looked up those words, you know, and then the word Galid 1567. I didn't even get that one. 15H1567.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Heap of witness.
Yeah, so it's like it was just interesting to show that you know, in the I don't know, I guess, you know, when we talk about translations, you know, we see in the Hebrew there was some, I'm assuming that there was some like Aramaic words that were in there, you know, or something. It was just something I just started thinking about, you know, just how they had inserted that within the text to show like Aramaic there. So it was just interesting. But I just like how they both named it in their tongue that they spoke, you know. So that was amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting that word mitzpah means overlook point. So and it's heap of witness. It means heap of witness, as Laban said in Aramaic. Then Jacob said Gilead in the Hebrew. Same thing, heap of witness. And then it says mitzpah, which means overlook point, showing that Yahuah above had his eyes on both men, that they kept the covenant. So that was interesting also, because you mentioned mitzpah as well. Sister Linda.
Yes, just very quickly. Has been some talk that Abraham's father, you know, was involved in idolatry and all that. But 31 and 53, when they made the covenant, the Elohim of Abraham and the Elohim of Nahor, the Elohim of their father, judged between us. So it shows like a continuity of Yahuah, correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
31 and 53.
Uh-huh.
There's some, I know you said for the sake of the Bible studies and everything, don't mention none of the other books or anything like that, but I'm just saying there has been some talk that Abraham's father, Terah, he was involved in idolatry and all of that. But this shows a continuity that they all had the belief structure in Yah. Because it says the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, who is his brother, and the Elohim of their father, who was Terah, judged between us. And Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Isaac. So that shows that there was a history of Elohim, our Elohim being their Elohim also, the progenitor's Elohim. Can you draw that conclusion from that scripture?
Well, I think what you're seeing is what they became later. Because remember,
okay, yes.
Yahuah called them out of the land of the Chaldeans.
Right. Okay.
And it mentions that in the book of Joshua, I think. Let me see if I can find that passage. All right, Joshua 24. This is where there's a covenant made with Shechem. It says, then Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, or Shechem, and called for the elders of Israel for their heads, for their judges, for their officers, and they presented themselves before Yahuwah. And Joshua said unto all the people, thus saith Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor, dwelt on the other side of the river in old times, and they served other gods. Then they took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, led him through all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his descendants, and gave him Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave the mountains of Seir to possess. But Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. Also I sent Moshe and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt, according to what I did among them. Afterward I brought you out. So here is a clear point of what they used to serve versus when they crossed over. Now they serve the Yahuwah of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob.
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, sis. What else we see there? This was a good study. This was a really, really good study. And I think our thirst was quenched as we were kind of stopped mid-sentence. Because remember, these chapters were put in. These chapter breaks were put in. This was one big, so sometimes when we stop, it's kind of unfulfilled and we kind of yearn to get back in and finish. So praise Yah, we were able to get back in today and get to the bottom of this and how organic it was. There wasn't a lot of study, because it's always important for us to study, no doubt. It's always important for us to have a hold on it. But how today, I mean, we literally tied in scriptures that we found on the fly while we were reading. We literally were able to pull in personal experiences as we were reading. We literally were able to remember those scriptures that we read that had something to do with, but couldn't quite make the connection. Now they do, organically, while we read. And I think it's always edifying to study that way as well. Brother Marshall.
Hallelujah. As Brother Nate was talking about the long suffering of Yah, like it dawned on me about the 20 years that Jacob worked for Laban and how it's been 2,000 years, of Mashiach resurrection. And well, probably just a little bit over 2,000 years, but it's been 2,000 years. And I see 20 years of Jacob working for Laban. And the flocks that he gave to Laban was the spotless flocks, the spotless sheep. But then he took to himself the spotted sheep. But then Mashiach is taking the spotted sheep to make it whole, to make it unspotted, spotless.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like how we see the long suffering of Yah throughout these 2,000 years. And we see the change of Mashiach even saying that the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. So he's truly as a shepherd who is seeking for the lost sheep, to make them into not just into one flock, but whole. And that was beautiful. As soon as he mentioned like the long suffering of Yah, I was like, wait, like there's something with the 20 years and the 2,000 years, and his coming out is so soon. I mean, it may be when my great grandchildren if I have kids, it could be then, but then that's still the same. That's very soon. That's very near. His coming is very near. So then seeing that similarity and the 2,000 years and also the flocks that Jacob left to Laban, and also the Jews at the time who were claiming to be righteous, who were claiming to see, they entered into a covenant with the Romans, saying that no, we're going to serve the Romans, but we're not going to. This is our. I mean, the proof was there, and if they studied the scripture, they would have known the exact timing in which the Mashiach was going to show up, and he showed up his fruits, but they rejected him. So then now you see the ones who claim to be all white were given over to the enemy, and the enemy has been ruling for that long. But there's the thing about him taking out the lost sheep that are spotted to make them whole, to make them white, to make them into one, to bring them into one flock. and even the natural olive tree, and taking the wild olive tree and crafting into one tree, like Rachel and Leah. But then at the end, it all comes back to having the woman with the 12 stars. It's like being one house, not being separated, but like one house with order. So I was looking into it in the light of Mashiach and how it could relate to us today with the 20 years and the flocks and the injustice of Laban. But he still believed in it, yeah, like we were talking about in 53. He still believed in it, yeah, but though he had images, so then that's the same way. That's what's happening today, right? They still believe in Yah, but they have their own idols. Like that's the same way that's still like happening today.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
they want to
they
bring it
there's
with
an
them.
Almighty.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
and we have to guard our hearts, away from that too. Are we truly depending on him, or is there something else that's we got waiting in the back burner? You know what I mean? To really put our faith and trust in. Or are we waiting on him? Are we really trusting him? I was laughing because it sounded like you were winding it down, and then you got excited again, and you started on a whole nother.
Yeah.
But nah, man, you're and don't ever let anybody quench that in you, man. It's your exuberance, brother. I have to say, from the songs you share to your excitement about the word is contagious, and it doesn't mean that I have that same exhibition, but it does spark a movement in me, and I'm sure other brothers and sisters as well. So don't ever lose that, man. Don't ever let anyone quench that, or because there are those that will or try to.
Yes. Oh man. Talking about it. I mean, we're recording on live, and it's like it's a battle every day. It's like everywhere you go, whatever that is you do, there's a trap. Like every time he's seeing it, and he's trying to stop you, but then you realize you run back to Yah, and it's like so it goes. It's like on and on. But he's got to. The thing is, we all have to be on the narrow way. We are all members of the same body. There's nobody who's greater than the other one, because we look up to the one who's greater than everyone else, and he keeps on feeding us. And it's beauty when we understand, like the vessels that we are, and how the veins of a body are all connected, but then the blood has to flow out throughout the whole body to make the body whole. If the blood does not flow throughout the whole body, the body is not going to be healthy. So then it's the same way for us. I mean, the blood is already made clean. We are redeemed in Mashiach, but then now we have to connect, like make sure that the blood runs through all of the members of the body so that we are whole, and that's the bride presented to the king. But then that's beauty, to not having like competition or anything, but to stay on that narrow way, which we are all called to do. And I must say, the burden of Mashiach is light, and his yoke is easy. But he did say, in the world you will have tribulations, and there's so many tribulations that come, and it's just like, I mean, it's a battle every day, like I can't even lie to you. Like there's times I felt like, I was being a little quenched, but because it goes back to many waters cannot quench love, so then it goes back to it, of the dragon bringing out of his mouth the flood, but then the earth opening her mouth to swallow up the waters, because many waters cannot quench love. So it's like going back to the sacrifice of Elijah, and Yahuwah sending out fire from the heavens. It's like it goes back to this: many waters cannot quench love. So we abide in Mashiach, and we just trust in him. And it is beauty though to stay on the same level and to be humbled. That's beauty. And so we're just grateful to Yah for you and all, like Brother Rick, come on, Brother JP. It's like, but I don't know if you've noticed how sometimes it's like I'm on with you guys, and then I go off because it's like there's no there's things that I sometimes I don't have the phone, or I'm doing other things. So it's just like keep on going. It's not easy out in the world, but with Mashiach everything has been made easy.
Absolutely.
So
Nah, brother. It's definitely a journey. We're everywhere we are, and all our we have different experiences, and I think it's important, not only to not mute the sound that Yah has given you, but allow our experiences and our understandings to become one. Because one thing you said, if the blood doesn't flow, the body will be unhealthy. But if you really look at it, if the blood's not flowing properly, that part of the body will die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It will be cut off. So we have to look at that literally, and we have to see the analogies that the Father uses in Scripture, using body parts, using sounds, using trees, using flowers, using plants, using a relationship between a man and a woman, and pay attention to them because they mean something to us. That's why he uses them. When we look at those things and how they operate and how they function properly, we can understand Scripture. It's that simple, So
Yes.
praise Yah, praise Yah. We're gonna conclude this Genesis study. Next time we meet will be in chapter 32. So read ahead and praise Yah. Shabbat Shalom.